You're listening to The Jake Asman Show on the SportsMap Radio Network.
Presented by Rocket Mortgage.
Live from the O'Reilly Auto Parts Studios, here's Jake Asman.
The New York Knicks have had an active free agency, which is what you would expect considering they came into the offseason with the most cap space in the NBA. The news yesterday, it broke during our show, and now we have some real time to break it down. The Knicks are signing Kemba Walker to a deal that is reportedly 2 years, around $8 to $9 million. So let me start by saying this. If Kemba Walker is 75% the player he once was, he's by far and away the best point guard the Knicks have had the last 20 years. I kid you not. As a diehard Knicks fan, I have seen some of the worst point guards ever play for this team. Ever. Ramon Sessions was an opening night Knicks point guard. Elfrid Payton was the guy last year. I mean, it's a joke. Getting a guy like Kemba Walker for $8 to $9 million because OKC is paying his max contract is a brilliant move by the Knicks. There's no other way to say it. The Knicks replaced Elfrid Payton with Kemba Walker. We start there. In each of the last 5 years, Kemba Walker's averaged more than 19 points a game, more than 4 assists, and has made 3+ three-pointers per game. No Knicks point guard in the 75-year history of the franchise has ever done that in a single season. Kemba Walker's a good player. He's been a durable player in his career up until what's happened here with the Celtics. But he has plenty of time to recover because the Celtics got bounced early. And he's only 31. This is a move you make if you're the Knicks. Rather than overpaying for Lonzo Ball or Reggie Jackson or any of the other point guards that were out there, this is a great move. This is a shrewd signing that allows you to maintain your cap flexibility and get a really good player that wants to play for you. And the message it sends to the rest of the NBA, that can't be overstated. You have a star that wanted to come to New York. It helps that he's from the Bronx. It helps that he played at Rice High School. But hell yeah, this is a great move by the Knicks. You know, my biggest criticism, and it really wasn't a criticism because they talked about it on the show the other day. You know, I had no issue with the Knicks bringing back Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson and Nerlens Noel and keeping the core that they had this most recent year where they won 41 games and hosted a playoff series. I had no issue with bringing those guys back. My issue was, well, is that all they're going to do? Right? They added Evan Fournier, who's a nice player, replaces Reggie Bullock. Good move. That's not moving the needle, though. Kemba Walker moves the needle. And by bringing in Kemba, your backcourt now has Derrick Rose coming off the bench. See, bringing back Derrick Rose, the Knicks needed to do it. He was so good. He's a Tom Thibodeau guy. But Derrick Rose will get burnt out if he has to play 30-plus minutes a night, especially with the regular season being 81 games now this year. So you could not go into the year with Derrick Rose being your only option at point guard. So that's why getting Kemba Walker is brilliant. If you're a Knicks fan and you're upset about the Kemba Walker move, get a grip. The Knicks replaced Elfrid Payton with Kemba and Reggie Bullock with Fournier. Was scoring not the Knicks' biggest issue a season ago? I mean, the Knicks would go through so many stretches where it was so hard for them to score. Randall was great last year, and we will get to his extension here in a moment. But there were times, man, where the Knicks could have used another guy that could create his own shot. End of a game, give the ball to this guy. And you give the ball now to Kemba Walker, who's made a living of hitting the last shot. Go talk to any UConn fan. And Kemba knows how to play at the Garden, as we all remember, back in 2011. Winning what? 4 games in 4 days, and then winning an NCAA title. I mean, that run by the UConn team in 2011 was all time. It really was. But this move with Kemba now allows you to play Derrick Rose and Emmanuel quickly off the bench. If you're worried about, Fournier and Kemba Walker not being great defensive players, Tom Thibodeau could coach around that. You could coach defense in the NBA if you have an elite coach. You can't coach how to be an elite scorer, an elite playmaker. You could coach defense. Defense is effort. You can't coach what Kemba Walker brings to the table. And then you find out yesterday that the team options on the contracts they gave to Alec Burks, Nerlens Noel, and Derrick Rose, they all have team options on their final seasons, I should say. So you still have cap flexibility here, which is big. But I look at the Knicks team right now, and the starting five of Kemba Walker and R.J. Barrett, Evan Fournier, and Julius Randle and Mitchell Robinson. That's solid. You know the reaction Kemba's going to get when he makes his Garden debut and starts playing well in front of the Knicks fans there? It's going to be nuts. And Kemba almost signed with the Knicks 2 years ago and instead went to the Celtics. Now he's signing with the Knicks because he saw what they did this past year. The Leon Rose, Tom Thibodeau effect. The key for the Knicks in this upcoming NBA season is going to be the growth of their young players. R.J. Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, and I throw Julius Randle in the mix there too. I know he's been in the NBA for a long time, but he's only 26. And I have no issue with the Knicks this morning giving Julius Randle a 4-year, $117 million contract extension. If they had waited and Julius Randle had another, all NBA season, then you would have to owe him $200+ million. And this move here by the Knicks long-term saves them cap space. I trust Thibs and Rose to know if what we saw from Randle this past year was fool's gold or if it was real. I trust the Knicks. And it's weird saying I trust the Knicks because I've not been able to say that in my lifetime as a fan of this godforsaken franchise. But I trust the Knicks to know what they're doing here. I do. This is a signing that you make with Kemba 10 out of 10 times. And extending Randle is belief that the Knicks have that surrounded now with more shooters like a Kemba and a Fournier and an R.J. Barrett continuing to develop, who's only 20, oh, by the way. By the way, a couple of years from now, it's not crazy to think R.J. Barrett's the best player in the Knicks. Just throwing that out there. It's a good move. Anyone who's complaining about this, you're just always going to complain about something. There wasn't a single thing the Knicks could have done this offseason where they'd be a championship favorite, right? Even if they got Damian Lillard, they wouldn't be a championship favorite. So this is what you have to do. You gotta, each year try and improve your team. The Knicks had a 41-win season last year, 4th seed in the East. I think they're better now than they were. And that's all you could try and do. If they had just done what they did and no Kemba, then yeah, it'd be a bit of a bummer of an offseason. To add Kemba and Fournier, you replaced Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock. What are we talking about here? And I have no issue with signing Randle. I think it sends the right message to the team as well. That guy had a phenomenal season, wants to be a Knick, no issue with it. This gives the Knicks future cap flexibility. If he made an All-NBA team next year, he'd be able to get $200 million on a supermax contract. Randle wanted the money now. Knicks could sign him long-term, keep his cap number lower than it would be. And another point I put out on my Twitter account at Jake Asman this morning, I looked it up. Julius Randle is making less money than Kristaps Porzingis is making with the Mavericks. I think if you ask any NBA evaluator who would they have right now, which player, you would take Randle over Porzingis, I would say, in most cases. Randle plays. That's the big thing. KP is a walking injury. Randle missed what? 2 games last year? 1 game? Guy plays. That's important. So I love what the Knicks have done. I mean, look, in a perfect world, you get Damian Lillard, but you can't wait around for that because you don't know if he's getting traded. And if he does get traded, you don't know if you're the team that's going to be able to get him. You cannot wait around for that if you're the Knicks. So instead, you bring in Kemba Walker on a 2-year deal for $8 or $9 million. The Knicks were smart. They knew, probably by talking to OKC or talking to Walker's agents, that a buyout was coming with the Thunder. And the Knicks made up the difference in whatever Kemba gave back to OKC to get bought out by giving him that contract. It's a great deal. Look at some of the contracts that are given out in the NBA. And for the Knicks, you're paying Kemba Walker $8 or $9 million a year. And you maintain your cap flexibility. Still have all your draft picks. Still have your young core of Barrett and Quickly and Mitchell. I struggle to find how any Knicks fan could be upset about this. Kemba Walker should have been a Knick a long time ago. And it's awesome that he's finally going to get the chance. And this hopefully is the start of something, right? I mean, players taking less to go join the Knicks. That's what's going to have to happen over the years for this team to be a championship caliber team. You look at the East, and obviously you have the Bucks. You have the Nets. We'll see what Philly is when they trade Simmons at some point here. Miami got better by adding Lowry. Knicks had to do something, and then they did. The Celtics should be competitive again this year. Let's see what Toronto now is. I don't know if they're great, but they got better. What are the Wizards now with some of the moves they made trading Westbrook? I think the Knicks are right there competing once again for the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. I really do. Kemba, Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, not too shabby for a big three. And Evan Fournier is a bucket getter, and that was the Knicks' biggest issue. I think most Knicks fans like this move. I struggle with the ones who don't, though. What am I missing? What am I missing? 800-224-2004 is the number if you want to weigh in on the Knicks and NBA free agency. You also could find me on Twitter at Jake Asman. Follow me there at Jake Asman. Tweet me your thoughts. Are you on board with what the Knicks have done this offseason? We will react more to the NBA throughout the show this morning. But up next, let's get to what was a breaking news report about Deshaun Watson that never made any sense. We'll talk about that next and Watson's future with the team he's still on, the Houston Texans, next here on the Jake Asman Show on Sports Map Radio.
The Jake Asman Show.
One more Chipotle tip because I'm going to give it move. If you're getting a bowl, right, and you want double chicken or double steak, I'm personally